Welcome back to another fantasy fight. This time Ken Norton goes up against Corrie Sanders. Norton's claim to fame was his 3 historic fights against Muhammad Ali. Norton won the title, the WBC version, in 1978. He lost it in his first defense against Larry Holmes in one of the great fights of all time. Norton's record was 42-7-1. His opponent, Corrie Sanders. Sanders won the WBO championship in 2003 in his second-round knockout of Wladimir Klitschko. He lost the title the next year in 2004, fighting for the WBC championship against Vladimir's brother Vitaly. His record was an impressive 42-4. This should be a great matchup. The first fight we're going to watch is the Ken Norton-Larry Holmes fight in 1978 for the WBC championship. Watch Norton as he attacks, constantly moving forward, putting pressure on Holmes. He has a really strong jab, great body puncher. And for a person who moved forward all the time, he had a real effective defense. As you can see, he's given Holmes everything he can. The fight went 15 rounds. Holmes won a split decision and won the WBC championship. Norton had gained the championship after his 1976 split decision loss to Muhammad Ali in Yankee Stadium. Ali was supposed to sign a rematch clause, but he failed to do that. The WBC stripped Ali of his title and gave it to Ken Norton. And I think the footage here pretty much speaks for itself. It was a savage fight. Both fighters given everything they had. Watching the Jimmy Young-Ken Norton fight in 1977. The two fighters came together in Las Vegas. Following Norton's loss to Ali in 1976, the WBC came in and stripped Ali of his title and said the winner of the Jimmy Young-Ken Norton fight is going to be the new heavyweight champion of the world, according to them. So I wanted to correct myself because earlier I made the mistake of saying that Norton just got the title without a fight. He had to fight Jimmy Young. Now you say, well, who was Jimmy Young? Jimmy Young was a quality fighter. In 1975, he lost a highly disputed decision to Muhammad Ali for the title. And in 1978, he sent George Foreman into retirement, defeating him in a 12-round decision. He also had wins over Ernie Schaefer's and some other prominent fighters. So he was a quality fighter. Next up, we're going to watch Ken Norton against George Foreman. Norton is going to get a shot at the title in 1974. This is going to be the first of 3 attempts at the heavyweight title. Norton had previously lost to Ali in 73 and was given the title shot. Foreman, on the other hand, had gained the title with a second-round knockout over Joe Frazier. Norton is not going to fare any better than Frazier because they fought similar styles, made to order for George Foreman. People that came at George Foreman were not going to stay in the ring long. He was going to take you out. He has an awesome chin, a powerful jab, and is very strong. The people who were successful against Foreman were boxers who moved and ran away from his power. As you can see, Norton's having a lot of trouble. One of Norton's biggest weaknesses was his inability to adapt to who he was fighting. He was much like Frazier in that he fought just one style. And of course, against a man like George Foreman, that's going to be a problem, your inability to adapt. As you watch this is going to be the low point of Norton's career in his prime. He's going to get another shot at the title in 1976 against Ali, in which he loses a 15-round decision. And then again in 1977, he gains the title, as we talked about previously, defeating Jimmy Young in a 15-round decision. Next, we're going to watch Corrie Sanders against Wladimir Klitschko in 2003 for the WBO championship. they had a hard time finding anybody that would fight Wladimir. A lot of people backed out of the fight, and finally Sanders stepped up, having only fought 3 rounds in 2 years. They were fighting in Germany, where Wladimir was very popular, even though he was from the Ukraine. As they're fighting there, you need to understand Wladimir Klitschko was the biggest thing in boxing, and he was supposed to be right in line to fight Lennox Lewis next. Notice how high Corrie Sanders carries his left hand. As I mentioned earlier, he's an offensive fighter. He's not a well-conditioned fighter. Fights are not going to last long when Corrie Sanders is involved. Now, Wladimir is used to people backing up against him, but Sanders doesn't know how to back up. He does not defend. He is on the offensive. And here you can see that left hand strikes, and immediately Wladimir goes down. Vladimir's shaken. Sanders is in his element, fighting all offense, and the second knockdown comes immediately. Sanders is going to leave the ring with the title. He's going to leave the WBO title in 2003 for his refusal to fight Lamont Brewster, and then he signs to fight Vitaly Klitschko for the WBC championship. This is going to be the Vitaly Klitschko-Corrie Sanders fight in 2004. After Sanders had devastated Wladimir Klitschko, he goes against his brother for the WBC championship in 2004. Lennox Lewis has just retired. Ring Magazine wants to recognize a new champion after Lewis's retirement. So they're going to recognize the Vitaly Klitschko-Corrie Sanders winner as the champion. Sanders, once again, is going to show his incredible toughness, his ability to take a punch. He's trying to take out Vitaly with one shot, much like he did his brother. The fight is going to be dominated by Klitschko, and Sanders is going to show just how much heart he has and how much punishment he can endure and how he can take a punch. But the fight is going to be stopped in the 8th round. Vitaly's going to win. Now we're going to take a look at Corrie Sanders against Hasim Rahman. And this fight has so much action, but this is typical of a Corrie Sanders fight. You can notice how high he carries that left hand. He's a southpaw, and he nails Rahman. Rahman disputes that he actually went down, that it was ruled a knockdown, and they both go at it again. Sanders' fights never lacked for action. And now Sanders moves in for the kill. Rahman retaliates, and boom, Sanders goes down. This was, as I said, pretty typical. Well, in looking at Rahman, you say, well, he's probably not a great fighter. He was a really strong fighter. He knocked Lennox Lewis out in the 5th round in 2001. Lennox Lewis only lost 2 fights in his entire career, and Rahman was one of them. This fight has taken place in 2000. As they continue to exchange blows, notice Sanders is not a real good defensive fighter. He is also not what you would call the best conditioned fighter. He's trying to take you out. He could take a heck of a punch, and he delivered a tremendous blow. That left hand was what you didn't want to get hit by. Now, after this exchange, you can see both of them almost go down. Rahman holds on to the ropes to keep from going down, and Corrie Sanders is looking to his corner, trying to figure out what to do next. Rahman is going to take the aggressive path in the fight here, kind of takes over it, and you can see Sanders is on the defensive, covering up with not much success. So it's really indicative of a Corrie Sanders fight. They were not going to last long. He was going to get you out of there as quickly as he could. Looking at the comparison chart, Ken Norton came from San Diego, California. Corrie Sanders from South Africa. Ken Norton in '77 won the WBC championship. Sanders won the WBO title in 2003. Norton has a little advantage in reach, 80 inches compared to 77 inches. As far as hand speed, surprisingly, Corrie Sanders had lightning hands. Boxing ability, neither were very good boxers. KO power, that advantage goes to Corrie Sanders. His left hand carried dynamite. Chin, I probably should have went Sanders in advantage there, but Ken Norton had a good chin as well. No advantage. Size, Sanders had a little advantage, about 10 pounds, 6'4", 225, compared to Norton's 6'3", 215. But once again, I'm not going to list that as an advantage. Defense, Norton definitely had an advantage there. Endurance, big advantage there. Sanders was not a well-conditioned fighter. Spent most of his time on a golf course. Adaptability, Norton had no adaptability. Sanders had a little bit, not much. I'm going to give him a slight advantage there. Foot speed and strength, no advantage in foot speed by either one of them, and both of them were very strong. Jab, surprisingly, I'm going to give the advantage to Ken Norton. Sanders did not work behind a jab. Cuts, no advantage. Reach, slight advantage to Norton. Body attack, Norton. Norton has a 5.36 advantage. A little decisive. Now, both fighters, before I render my decision, I'm going to give you a little background on them because both of them kind of suffered some unfortunate situations later in their life. Ken Norton suffered a severe car accident in 1986, and he suffered some brain damage. And it was sad because a lot of people saw him in later years and thought that he had suffered that from the ring. If you ever saw Kenny Norton speak, he was very articulate. Matter of fact, he was a movie actor for a long period of time because of the way he was built. But in '86, he had this severe brain injury, and he had slurred speech after that. As I said, Kenny Norton was well liked by everybody. Everybody liked him, even Ali. He also suffered a series of strokes in later years. He had prostate cancer. He had a heart attack. He had quadruple bypass. He finally died in 2013. Now, his counterpart in this fight is Corrie Sanders. Corrie Sanders was at a restaurant enjoying a birthday party with his nephew when the restaurant was being robbed and gunfire broke out. And Sanders died a hero. He was standing in front of his daughter, shielding bullets from her. He was later rushed to the hospital and died in 2012. So both these fighters had unfortunate accidents later in life. Before I give my decision in the Corrie Sanders-Ken Norton fight, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'd love to hear your comments. We're going to have a lot more fantasy fights. In looking at these two fighters, you have to look at their strengths and weaknesses. As you look at Corrie Sanders, his strengths were his ability to take a punch and his ability to deliver a knockout punch. His weakness was his inability defensively and his lack of stamina. Norton, on the other hand, his weaknesses were his inability to adapt to different styles. His strength was he was a pretty solid defensive fighter, stamina, and he had a strong jab for a fighter who fought with his style. As these two come together, sparks are going to fly in the first few rounds. First 3 rounds were critical for Norton. If he could survive, I see Norton going on and winning the fight late with a TKO. I don't think Norton could put Corrie Sanders down. I know Corrie Sanders could put Ken Norton down. But I also think that Ken Norton could survive the first 3 rounds. I think his jab could hold off Corrie Sanders caused some problems throughout the fight. Sanders' stamina would be a problem late in the fight. I see stoppage around the ninth round, a ninth round TKO. Ken Norton the winner.